Get cool stuff for what you were going to do anyway. Drink beer. With Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt, you can just snap a photo of your receipt and upload it to the website to rack up points for exclusive merch. Get points for every purchase, whether you're grabbing a pint on draft, a case for a party, or a tall boy at the stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you buy Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Sign up now at rewards.labattusa.com.
Verdict Toyota pregame show.
Happy Saturday afternoon, Syracuse fans. Giovanni Heater alongside Samantha Croston with you on ESPN Syracuse and CuseSportsTalk.com. Syracuse basketball pregame as we get you set and ready for the Orange. Another road trip in the ACC up to Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, as they'll take on Boston College. Samantha, happy Saturday. Happy game day if you're a Buffalo Bills fans like us to our playoff game day, of course. And let's rock and roll here.
Let's rock and roll. I feel like we're matching unintentionally, but I like the vibe we have going on here. We're both Bills fans. Indeed. Can anyone tell? If you're watching the stream, you certainly can. No, I'm excited, right? You have this game, then you have a Buffalo Bills game. I feel like this men's basketball game is a little appetizer to that, so I'm excited about it. I mean, listen, I think that if you're a Syracuse fan, you have to feel pretty good about the place that they're in right now. They're on a 3-game winning streak, right? They've been really trending upwards, I think, in a couple of different categories. They're shooting better. It seems like the culture is in a better place. The identity is found in some sense. This is a team that is on the rise right now.
Yeah, no question about it. If you want to chime in and chat, get in on the conversation. Our phone lines will be open throughout the entirety of our pregame program today. 315-437-7644. As always, the number to call. That's 4ESPN44. If you want to chat with Samantha and I as we get you set and ready for tip-off, just about an hour away in Chestnut Hill between Syracuse and Boston College. Samantha teed it up for us. The Orange winners of 3 straight. 6 of its last 7 have gone in the W column for this Syracuse men's basketball team. Boston College on the other side, Sam, a little bit of a strugglesome bit for these Eagles as of late. 7-10 on the year. They're 0-4 in ACC play. They're currently on a 4-game losing skid. This statistically, on paper, when you really break it down, this might be the worst team in the ACC, so you know what that means? The same conversation we've been having the last couple of weeks. This is must-win territory for Syracuse.
100%. You have to consider this a must-win. I'll be honest, from everything that I can tell about this team, there is just not a ton that they do well. Offensively, they're shooting below 40% from the field, 29% from 3, and they shoot a lot of threes, which is interesting. That's a big part of their offense, but they're ultimately not that great at it. They're a bad shooting team, and I think, part of the criticism is that they don't really run offensive sets. They don't adjust well in-game, and they're relying on the 3-ball even if they aren't shooting the 3-ball well. So this is a team where I don't know that you could expect a lot of in-game adjustment. I think that through and through, this is the kind of game where Syracuse should win, and must win as far as making the NCAA tournament, which we know is this team's goal this year.
It is a quad 3 opportunity for Syracuse on the road at Boston College today. The next quad 1 opportunity is not until the 27th, so about 10 days away. They'll play at NC State. Miami, though. Miami's coming up after the Virginia Tech game on Wednesday. Miami will be on Saturday. This is a Miami team that's 31 in the net, so that could certainly become a quad 1 opportunity in the next couple of days here, with that being a home game in the Dome for Syracuse. If Miami creeps into that top 30, that's the line of demarcation. The top 30 teams is a quad 1 game at home. Might see that Miami game be a quad 1 game for Syracuse here coming up.
More and more recently, I have started to feel grateful for the fact that with the Syracuse men's basketball team, so many of the tougher games are coming at the end of the year. You don't always say that. There are times in sports where you think, well, if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best.
Sure.
I feel like I talked about that a lot with even Syracuse men's lacrosse last year. They're playing some tough competition early. That can at times be a good thing, but you think about the fact that they really only got Donnie Freeman back a couple of games ago, and look at the impact he's made. They are a different team now in these past, let's call it 3 games, maybe more. And I think the fact that some of those tougher competition games are coming at the end of the season is a great thing for Syracuse. It frankly was a good draw.
Yeah, it really was a nice runway, I felt like, to get going in ACC play. And we've kind of talked about it ad nauseum, but you had the Clemson game. It was a big opportunity. Unfortunately, you don't end up in the win column there. A 1-possession loss to the Tigers in the Dome. I really feel like if you had Donnie Freeman for a couple games before that just to get him comfortable again, get the rhythm back, he probably has better than a scoreless first half, even though he had an unbelievable second half, and Syracuse has a good shot to win that game. But regardless, this is that 4-game stretch for the Orange where we said, because of the position they put themselves in, the non-conference with the loss to Hofstra, going winless out in Las Vegas, we had said they have to go 4-0 in this 4-game stretch. Well, the good news is they're off to a 3-0 start in this 4-game stretch. They took care of business on the road against Georgia Tech in Pittsburgh. They beat Florida State in the Dome this week, and now they have Boston College to cap off this 4-game stretch. And these are the bottom 4 teams in the ACC when it comes to a lot of the different metrics. It comes to the net rankings. That's why it's must-win territory. Now you start to dial things up a little bit. It's kind of like a slow rise, right? And the climax being, okay, you're going to play Duke, you're going to play Carolina, you're going to play Louisville, some of the top dogs in the ACC. But it's this slow rise. So all of a sudden you're playing the bottom of the league. After you got a good taste with Boston College of what very solid, or excuse me, Clemson, with what very solid competition in the league is going to be. Clemson's a top 25 team right now. Then you're going to hit a little bit of a runway with Virginia Tech. They're ranked 51 in the net as it currently sits. Then you're going to play Miami, almost a top 30 team, almost a quad 1 opportunity, could turn into a quad 1 opportunity. And then you hit the pinnacle. You got Carolina twice, Duke, of course, Virginia's very good, Louisville's in the mix there. So SMU even, who had a big win the other night, half-court heave, buzzer beater down in Dallas. So there's some really good teams in the league, and Syracuse kind of gradually eases their way into the tough portion of the schedule. You're right.
Exactly. And listen, I think part of the reason why Syracuse was able to get better are reasons that we've discussed quite a bit. You know, Donnie Freeman, better shooting. They're shooting at the free throw line better. But honestly, I want to also point everyone's attention to something that William Kyle III said in the post-game presser. He said that he feels like part of the reason why this team has been able to be more successful through, let's say, the past 3 or so games is that when runs are happening by the opposing team, he feels that Syracuse is able to stop them.
Yeah.
And I think that is more than just a talent thing, right? We've always talked about this team having talent. That's partially a mental thing. And to have practice being able to stop runs, right? To have practice being able to work yourself out of a hole, I think that is great to be doing those sorts of things in January and to be showing some of the younger guys on the team, hey, listen, if we're down, if we're in a situation where things aren't going well, basketball's a game of runs, right?
Right.
I feel like basketball, more than any other sport, is a game where it's not over until it's over. So to have everybody in that mindset now is just going to be better for March.
And that's been one of my biggest points to so many people that are like, oh, they almost let Georgia Tech back into the game. Oh, they almost let Pittsburgh back into the game. It's like, look, you got to play 40 minutes of basketball. It's almost impossible, no matter who you're playing, at this caliber, ACC level played, even if it's the basement teams in the conference, it's almost impossible to play 40 perfect minutes of hoops, right? You're going to go on runs. It's a game of runs. Of course, they're going to, if you're up 20, they're going to get it within 10. Now, maybe getting it within 5 was a little close for comfort, but then Syracuse goes on to win the game by 10 points, and you meet somewhere in the middle. Like, that's just the nature of the beast. You're still playing Division I athletes on the other side here. It's not like they're playing a bunch of high schoolers. So that's kind of been my message to everybody that's, oh, they're almost letting these teams back into the game. Like, be happy they're up 20. And then when they win by 10 on the road, you should be able to wipe your hands of that and feel very content that Syracuse won a road ACC game by 10 points here, Sam.
That was a funny game, wasn't it? Because they did. They ended up winning by 10 points. And if you just showed anyone the final score, they would have thought, oh, yeah, that's pretty much where we're supposed to be.
Right.
But if you watch that game, I sort of understand where there are a range of emotions. You're feeling one way when they're up by 20. You're feeling another way when that lead dwindles down to 5. I would say that was probably a little too close for comfort. But to your point, basketball, more than any other sport, is going to be a game where at times the other team is able to get back into it. It just has that kind of flow. It is a fast-paced game. I think if you're a basketball player, you have to understand that, especially in conference play. I mean, even a team like Boston College, who we both mentioned is quite honestly at the bottom of the ACC, a lot of the games that they lost, some even in conference, excluding Clemson, were close games. Yeah. Boston College was able to stay in some of these games. So keep that in mind if you're a Syracuse fan watching today. I have no doubt that Syracuse can and should win this game, but any team can get back into it at any time. So I wouldn't take anything for granted here, even against a weaker team.
An interesting proposition in our chat here, if you're chimed in on QSportsTalk.com. And if you're driving around, of course, you can find it on 97.7, 100.1 as always. But one of our chatters says, at what point do we get tired of calling every game a must-win game for Syracuse basketball this year? Well, it feels like, again, that's the position this team has put itself in. Now, getting tired of calling it a must-win game and then just having it be a blatant fact that it is a must-win game, I think are two different things. This is a must-win game. You can't afford losses against teams like Boston College. When they're playing these quad one games against Duke, against Carolina, we're probably not going to use the words must win. You'd like to win. You do have to win some quad one games in order to get into the tournament at this point. But yeah, you're not. It's not like they have to win out. This isn't you have to win out, but it's because of the quality of opponent they're playing today in Boston College.
And honestly, to that viewer's point, I was looking at my graphic that goes behind me on TV last night, and I was thinking the same thing that you were. I'm saying this to the viewer. Must-win game at some point does become a phrase where you are wondering, are you almost using that too much? And right, basketball is challenging in that aspect because anything could happen, even, come time for the ACC tournament. So I'm not sure, is must-win game the right phrase? I guess it depends on what you want the result of this season to be. They could not win this game. They could lose to a couple weaker opponents, but then they won't make the NCAA tournament, right? I view everything through the lens of this is a must-win game because Syracuse has to be in the NCAA tournament this year. You said to me in an interview that I did with you for TV a few days ago, something that I also thought was really great, which is that you said, hey, some fans are in a place where they feel anger. I will not forget that you said this. This is great. You said that's okay. But what's a problem is when anger turns to apathy. I will not soon forget that. That would be a bad place for Syracuse fans to be. So, yeah, in my opinion, it's a must-win game because of that. We don't want to go down the apathy road.
Right. No question about it. This is a city. This is a community that has always cared about Syracuse basketball. Really, ever since Boeheim took over the program and took them to a place it had never been before, this community has wrapped its arms around Syracuse basketball. And sure, football's had its runs. It's had its teams. You got your diehards that love lacrosse like myself, don't get me wrong. You got your women's hoops fans. You got everything. But this is a basketball town, right? This city loves Syracuse basketball, and it's been too long. It's a 4-year drought since they've been in the tournament. It's been too long since they've consistently been a top 25 team, not sweating out Selection Sunday. It really goes far beyond the 4-year drought because there were so many years where you're sweating it out come Selection Sunday. You're on the edge of your seat. You felt like a team that should have got in, got left out, and then a team that maybe had no business being in, making a run to the Final Four like in 2016, right? It's been this roller coaster of fandom for Syracuse fans, and you just hope that they cling on to that care, that passion, that desire to show up, to invest in being a fan of this program, because if that goes away, that's when you're in trouble, especially when you have one of the largest on-campus venues in all of college basketball with the JMA Dome. That'll always be the Carrier Dome in our hearts. Sam, I think it's a good time to take a break. When we come back, we're going to unpack so much about the opposition. We have some notes to deep dive into, talking all things Boston College with a scouting report. But first, before we take that break, it's time for Today in SU History, Sam. So let's take this thing back to the year 2009, January 17th, 2009. The season's top crowd that year sees number 8 Syracuse fight off number 12 Notre Dame, 93-74, a 19-point win inside the Dome for Syracuse in front of over 30,000 strong. 2 top 15 opponents. Arinze Onuaku had 19 points in the game for Syracuse. Johnny Flynn and Eric Devendorf had 17 points and 16 points respectively. Paul Harris had 15 points, 10 rebounds with a double-double. Rick Jackson had 14 points, 10 rebounds with a double-double, and even Andy Routens got in on the scoring with double figures. He had 10 points. How about those names, though? That's a trip down memory lane right there. I know you're a Long Island gal, but those are some big names right there.
No doubt about it. Eric Devendorf, my guy. No, listen, it's great to hear that, and I like when you do this segment, take us down a little walk, because there's always one thing that sticks out to me in these segments, and This time around, it's that number that you just pointed out with the fans. I mean, you said, what, 30,000 fans?
Yeah. I mean, over 30,000.
That's unbelievable. And I think to bring that back to present day for a moment, just understand that that is the kind of Syracuse fan base that you're rocking with here. Is that if you are a great team in Syracuse, 30,000 plus people will show out to come support you. And I know that fans are eager and waiting to feel that way. I think that this year's Syracuse men's basketball team at least has the juice and the talent to potentially become that kind of team where you're rooting for them in March.
It looks like, now this is just a quick Google search, so I would have to completely fact check it, but it looks like a quick Google search is telling me the last time Syracuse, I looked up, when was the last time Syracuse had 30,000 at the Dome? Looks like the last time was actually pre-COVID. A record-breaking attendance, 35,642 in 2019 against Duke. Of course, they always broke the record against Duke. It felt like after joining the ACC, every year they'd tick it up a notch. But 2019, we're talking pre-COVID. That is 7 years ago, the last time they had 30,000 plus in the Dome. Got to get back there, but you got to win games to do it. So we'll leave you with that when we come back. Plenty to unpack with Boston College and Syracuse coming up from Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts. Phone lines are open if you want to get in during the break. 315-437-7644. She's Samantha Croston. I'm Giovanni Heater. You're listening to QSportsTalk.com and ESPN Syracuse. Sweet.
Built by IKEA.
Guess it doesn't turn much more than that, but... What's up, chat? How we doing?
Thanks to the person who said great to see Devo on the Ozone. I'm glad that you guys watched that. Yeah, he's like the new regular guest, so he's coming on once a week to do the Orange Zone. I have to say, I felt like I learned 6 or 7 new things about basketball listening to this guy talk for 30 minutes.
He's unreal. He's been awesome on the ACC network.
Dude, he's such a good X's and O's guy.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like, I genuinely feel like I learn a lot about the game, and our viewers will too, just by listening to what he has to say. He's a fast talker. I think he has a lot he wants to get out, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, he's great. He was so fun to watch when he was a player too. It's awesome how some of them he's from Detroit. Came to Syracuse, never left, really. You know, besides some time overseas and whatnot playing. But
I feel like that's why everybody here, just loves the dude, respects him so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's orange through and through. Should we do a video for the Instagram story? All right,
on you. Chat, are we all Bills fans?
Yeah. What's the vibe? All right, ready?
Yep.
Ooh, the Giants banner. All right, here we go. What's going on, Syracuse fans? Welcome in, QSportsTalk.com and ESPN Syracuse. She's Samantha Croston. I'm Giovanni Heater. We're in our Buffalo Bills gear.
Of course.
It's playoff game day, but we are getting you set for Syracuse men's basketball on the road in Chestnut Hill. Syracuse trying to make it 4 straight wins. This would be 6 of its last 7. Sam, playing a lower echelon team in the ACC and BC, what do they got to do to get it done?
I think you just have to make sure that you aren't playing down to the level of competition. We have seen a couple of games, of course, where Syracuse has suffered from the dips a little bit. A 20-point lead we've seen dwindle down to a 5-point lead. I don't want to see that today. I want to see a little bit more consistency. And I think that the Syracuse men's basketball team has that kind of talent to be able to get this done easily.
We got you covered pregame right here. QSportsTalk.com and ESPN Syracuse. Perfect. Sweet. Go Bills. I'm seeing lots of Go Broncos. I don't know. What's rough? I don't know if I can get down with that. Clemson is doing great, so I know that would have been a nice one to have. That and Houston, we're going to look back on all year and be like, man, that would have been nice.
Heartbreaker.
We know Grandma. Who's Grandma Lou? But what about? Oh, I don't know who Grandma Lou is. My grandma is a Bills fan. Probably going to meet up with them after this to watch the game, actually. How upset will you be when New England wins the AFC? Is that Jordan? That's definitely Jordan. Jordan's a big...
No, who would say that?
Jordan's a big Pats fan. Coming back in a second.
If you like ESPN Syracuse in your ears, you should watch it with your eyes on CuseSportsTalk.com. ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. This is the Burdick Ford and Burdick Toyota pregame show.
Welcome back in on a Saturday. Giovanni Heater alongside Samantha Croston with you, getting you set and ready for Syracuse and Boston College up in Chestnut Hill. A road game for the Orange as this Syracuse team tries to make it 4 in a row. It would be 6 of its last 7 if Syracuse can pull it off today. They come in 12-5 on the year, 3-1 in ACC play. Boston College on the other side, a team that's on a 4-game losing skid, 7-10 on the season, 0-4 in ACC play. And it's a good time to get into our deep dive here, talking all things Boston College. A scouting report on the Eagles built by IKEA. Everything you need from IKEA is now at Destiny USA. Go check it out and dream the possibilities at your new IKEA Syracuse. Sam, we had talked about it. Boston College towards the bottom of the barrel when it comes to teams in the ACC so far this year.
100%. And listen, I think that for Syracuse, this is actually the kind of game where by the end of the first half, it could be over. I think that with Boston College, the issue is that at times they're falling into a hole early. If you're BC, you need an early lead. I don't think Syracuse is going to let that happen. I think Boston College is a team that doesn't have particularly good perimeter defense. I think they did a relatively bad job against Clemson. And we're also, I'm sure, going to talk about some of the guys on this roster, but Donald Hand Jr., I think, is sort of your make or break player in some way, shape, or form today. He is someone who you need as much from as possible. He's been shooting some threes. I think you need to see him driving a little bit more. Right now, he leads the team in points per game with 14.4. But this is a guy who got big NIL money, right? To make an impact here with Boston College. And I don't know that so far this season he's necessarily been as advertised.
Yeah, he's their leading scorer, 14.4 points per game. He's a rare 4-year veteran. You almost don't see that these days at Boston College. He does offer a little bit of height at the guard spot. He's a 6'5" guard. We'll see how that matches up with some of Syracuse's longer guards at the top in the backcourt. That's kind of a matchup I have my eyes on. Keeping it with the personnel here, Fred Payne is a sophomore guard for him as well. He's on the shorter side, so you'd probably see him match up against Nathan George if I had to guess. He's 6'1", second on the team in scoring, just above 14 points per game. That's kind of their second go-to guy. And then if I'm picking a third guy to chat about, it's Bowden Kapke, the junior forward, 6'11", third on the team in scoring. They only have 2 scorers averaging double figures. He averages 9 points per game. Second on the team, though, in rebounding with 5.7 rebounds a game. Like I said, only 2 scorers averaging double figures. This is a team, though, that did take 4 transfers. None of them are some of their bigger contributors, but they did take 4 transfers. Kapke is one of them. He's from Butler.
I want to shout out my guy, Mike Sidley, who's a staff writer at Eagle Insider 24/7. Mike McAllister set me up with him, and he was able to give me a little bit of insight heading into this pregame show. Beginning with Fred Payne, Mike Sidley said he's been their saving grace as far as offensive production goes, which I thought was really interesting. He's had 4 20-point games in his last 5 games. He's second on the team in steals. He leads the team in 3-point attempts. So more than half of his shots are threes. I think that's just something to be aware of. And then you also mentioned Kapke. That's a Butler transfer. To start the year, he was actually their sixth man, but he recently replaced Aiden Shaw in the starting lineup. So that is definitely somebody who you want to be on the lookout for as well.
So Boston College, I wanted to break down some of their numbers here, Sam. They actually have some of the worst numbers in the ACC, like across the board. And this is not to attack the Eagles. This is just to really put an emphasis on the point that Syracuse can't afford a loss today. It just would decimate you when it comes to the net. You have to win this game. Boston College, 183rd in the net rankings. That's the worst of any ACC team. Syracuse is 64th in the net. BC 160 in the Ken Pom, 162 in the Bart Torvik. Syracuse is 58 in the Ken Pom, and Bart Torvik has him at 53. Here's some of Boston College's numbers and how they stack up just in the ACC alone. Last in the ACC in all of these categories. Are you ready for this, Sam?
Oh, I'm ready.
Effective field goal percentage, assists, scoring offense, scoring margin, and three-point field goal percentage. Plain and simple, if I sum that up for you, they score worse than anybody in the conference. That's what those numbers tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I put in parentheses on my notes here, last in the ACC, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Exactly.
I have that written down. So all that to say, I understand what you mean. I think this is a better defensive team than an offensive team for sure.
Yes.
I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the show, but as far as I can tell, and from what Mike Sidley tells me, this is a team that is relying on three-point shooting whether the three ball is going in or not. I find that to be so strange. He's
Sounds
also,
like Florida State.
Right, in a way. I know there are definitely similarities there. I have also heard that Coach Earl Grant is catching a little bit of slack, I think, at least in some regard, for his in-game management. So I think that's another aspect of what's going wrong in this operation here, is that when Boston College is in games, they're not necessarily the ones who are winning most of the time. I even was looking through some of their scores a little bit earlier in the year, and something that struck me was the amount of overtime losses that they have. There are several overtime losses in the beginning of the year, and beyond that, right? There are some 3-point losses, 6-point losses, 2-point losses. In the times where they get close, they lose more often than they win, and that's something that sticks out to me.
Yeah, that is bizarre. And some more numbers for you here. There. So we talked about dead last. That would be 18th in the ACC, right? Okay, let's move up a tick. They're 17th in the ACC in assist-to-turnover ratio, fast break points, free throw percentage, steals, and win percentage. They're 15th in the ACC in three-pointers per game and turnover margin, 14th in the ACC in rebounding margin, and then they are 7th in the ACC in three-point attempts. So to your point, they shoot a lot of threes, but 18th in three-point field goal percentage. So they take a lot, they don't make them. Similar story to Florida State. There are some positive-ish numbers, and it really does lean on the defensive side of the ball. 3rd in the ACC in blocks. Syracuse is one of the best shot-blocking teams in the country, let alone the conference. But Boston College is a strength of theirs, 3rd in the ACC in blocks. 8th in field goal percentage defense, 4th in fouls per game, and 8th in rebounds per game. So they don't send you to the line a lot either, which is probably a good thing if you're Syracuse, because Syracuse, even though it's gotten better with the free throws, not a strength of theirs to shoot the free throws. So again, this is a matchup that really does cater to Syracuse in a lot of different ways.
Definitely. I mean, based on the stats that you were just pointing out, what I hear is that these are two teams who are both good blocking teams, and these are two teams who, at least for Syracuse to start the year, are bad free throw shooting teams.
Right.
And if you look at Syracuse's percentage, it is still relatively low thanks to the way that they started the year.
Sure.
Beyond that, there is not a ton of similarities between these two teams. And to your point, the stats certainly matter. I think they show quite a bit. What they show is that Boston College started the year having a down year. They're still having a down year. If you look on the Syracuse side at some, you will find, and I just know this from writing down from doing these shows, in many of the categories, they continue to trend upward. So I think that shows, right? Syracuse is headed in the right direction. I really do. I think they've shot better recently. I think that everybody seems to know and understand their role a little bit better. I think the floor is spaced much better ever since Donnie Freeman came back. I'm not even going to call this a trap game or anything like this. This is just a game that you simply have to have, and there is no reason not to have it despite being on the road.
I'm with you. With that, we'll take a short break here. Plenty more to unpack on Boston College and Syracuse, as well as we get you set and ready for the Eagles and the Orange in Chestnut Hill, just about a half hour away from tip-off. She's Samantha Croston. I'm Giovanni here. We're back after this on CuseSportsTalk.com and ESPN Syracuse.
This is Orange Nation.
Coach Autry. Sweet.
All right.
I know we'll have to, in the post-game show, we'll have to like have the Bills game on right there.
I was going to ask you. Oh my God, there is that.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that had cable. What the deal was.
Oh yeah, we'll put that.
Come
we'll put the
on
Bills
now. All right. I was hoping you would say that.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
great.
honestly, it might not even overlap that much. But,
not a ton.
But we'll still have it going.
Yeah.
We'll have it going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hate seeing it in the background.
So it's funny. I was sitting here doing the pregame one day by myself, and I was like, I had just taken the job, so I was so excited for the Texas A&M Miami playoff game and for football. And I watched like the whole first half at my house. During halftime, I drive over here. I was sitting here watching the second half, and I knew it was going to set up this way. I was like, when the game time got announced, I'm like, someone's going to be going on like a fourth quarter drive.
Yep.
To win or, win the game as I'm going on the air. And I knew that was going to happen. And in the first segment, I'm watching it. A&M's got this great drive going. I'm like, wow, they're going to tie the game. We're going to get overtime. And they throw a pick in the red zone, like literally threw an interception in the end zone. And I was sitting here and I was like doing the SU game. And I was just like, and then I was like, I just have to roll on, know?
Yeah, no, truly, you can't say anything about it. Because
nobody in the chat cares about Texas A&M football.
No, certainly not. But the fact that TV has cable in here is news I needed to hear right now.
There's times where we would, like, when they played out in Vegas, we would sit in here and, like, literally watch the games, and we would just stream us watching the games. Like, Paulie would sit here, and, like, Tim was in here, and Jordan was in here, and I was in here, and we would just sit here, like, the four of us, and because people like to, like, engage and stuff. So it wasn't like a show. We just did, like, we called it, like, a watch party.
Yeah.
And we just watched the game. It was fun.
That is fun.
We, like,
That's
got
cool.
pizza or whatever.
Yeah, sure. Just hang out.
Yeah. But we all had microphones, and Paulie said obnoxious things that I wished I wasn't on camera for.
Yeah, right?
Not like anything crazy bad,
I was going to say that like feels dangerous to me.
It was very, just a
free-flowing,
very frat boy type of room.
Sure.
Fun times, good times.
Absolutely.
I just kept telling myself, I was like, as long as I don't say anything stupid.
Yeah, you do.
You know what I mean?
You just keep it here.
I keep it professional,
You said that you don't think there's going to be a lot of crossover. Is that I know like last time it was like a shortened show because of the crunch. Is that the same situation again today?
I don't think there's crunch today. I'll double check with Jordan, we got crunch today or no? I don't know if there's crunch, but it really depends when the game ends. Like sometimes these SU games have gone long, but the only reason I say there probably won't be a ton of crossover is because like, okay, the Bills game starts at 4:30.
Yep.
Let's get real. The broadcast starts at 4:30. They probably kick off at like what, 4:35, 4:40?
Pretty much.
And like if the SU game theoretically ends at 4 and we go right on the air, we're probably in like our third segment by the time the game starts. So it probably won't overlap a ton. Nice. How's that? How? Gotta be true. Gotta be true. Oh, the Crunch do play at 7 though, so that wouldn't interfere with us. Thank you for the info. Appreciate it. It's almost getting to be lunchtime.
What'd you bring?
I brought leftover smoked pork tenderloin from last night. Yeah, and then I brought because I never know what the day's gonna bring. Like I don't know if I'm gonna end up like going out for the game after, like, and meeting up with my family or what I'm gonna do. So I always if I leave the house, I like bring 2 meals, like because I'm a big meal prep guy. The other thing I brought was Marry Me chicken with protein pasta. Yeah.
I've been hearing so much about Marry Me chicken.
Yeah.
Shoot me over the recipe to that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I didn't make it. My mom made it. She's also never made it
so
before.
it's
This
great.
was like the first time she made it, but it was gas. It was good. I would recommend.
This is the Burdick Ford and Burdick Toyota pregame show.
We're inside a half hour away from tip-off out in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts. Syracuse men's basketball on the road, trying to make it 4 consecutive W's in the win column. Today they get Boston College. Giovanni Heater with you alongside Samantha Croston, setting you up pregame for the Eagles and the Orange from Conti Forum. Samantha, have you had the opportunity to go out there and do a game at Conti Forum in your time yet?
I have not, but tell me what I'm missing.
Well, actually, it's one of the few places in the ACC I have not gotten to either. I think the 2 places I haven't been to are Clemson, weirdly enough. Haven't made it to Clemson.
Okay.
It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, and Virginia Tech never played them in football, so I never got there for basketball because with no football, never ended up there. Anyways, and then Boston College was so out of the way from Virginia Tech, I never made it up to BC either. So one of the only places I haven't been, but I ask you this to say, it's kind of the reverse of a tough place to play the way you typically think of it, right? Typically you think hostile crowd and everything like that, the atmosphere, especially on a Saturday, students back. Not the case at BC, but it's still a tough place to play in the sense that there's nobody there. Like, you kind of have to create your own juice, create your own energy. You have to get up for it in your own way when you go play road games there. And I've just seen so many times, whether it's Syracuse, whether it's Virginia Tech, whatever team I happen to be covering at the time, you go to BC and you lose the game.
Really?
And there's nobody in the seats. And there's no students, and it's Conti Forum. They use it for hockey and for basketball. And from what I've heard, it's cold there. And the best part, if you're covering the game as a member of the media, is the clam chowder, unlimited clam chowder buffet. That's the big deal up there. If you're covering a game at BC, whether it's football, basketball, whatever. But it's just not an easy place to go win. Now, the nice thing for Syracuse is it's not super far compared to the rest of the places in the league. But you really have to create your own juice there. The juicing station's going to have to be working overtime today.
100%. It is really interesting that you bring that up because there are 2 different ways to look at that, right? You would think in some sense the fact that there aren't so many fans there is potentially a good thing because you're really just kind of playing in some silence. At the same time, I think a lot of really high-level athletes would tell you that they actually feed off that energy, to your point. I think I heard Josh Allen legitimately say that this week.
Yeah.
Like, I think that people get really excited if you're an athlete, you know what I mean, to go play in a different place, to go prove people wrong. All of that, I think, adds to that maybe anger, motivation that you're feeling, how hyped up you get. So to your point, Syracuse is going to have to figure out a way to do that on their own. But to me, that in some sense falls on the leaders and in another sense falls on Adrian Autry, right? How about have a great pregame speech? You can figure out some things to say to fire this team up. And honestly, I think this is a team that has the will to win completely on their own.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Let's get into our Krause Hospital injury report. As always, brought to you by our friends at Krause. Say, take me to Krause. Nothing crazy on the injury report here, Samantha, but I'll let you give them the rundown here for us.
All right, let's see what we got here. We got Aaron Womack, who is out for Syracuse. We have Luke Fennell. Tell me if I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, great. Who's probable. And then Boston College, Nick Petronio out. I'm not sure that was someone who was a huge contributor.
Yeah,
anyway.
not a huge contributor for him. Yeah, so.
Okay, I was going to say, that's not really a name that I've heard. So that's good. Listen, right? I think when you're doing this injury report segment, the best thing that you can possibly see is there aren't any guys on there who are really contributing or making a difference here. Syracuse is far and away healthy as far as I'm concerned.
Right. You go down, Luke Petronio has not played a game this year for Boston College. And then for Syracuse, I'm hearing stirrings that Womack possibly going to be on the redshirt list for Syracuse. So I think that's probably why you're seeing that. Not 100% certain on it. And then Luke Fennell with the probable. Not sure what the injury is. Luke doesn't play a lot, though, if you've been watching this team, especially with Donnie Freeman back. There hasn't been a need for him. Once they've gotten out of the non-con, once Donnie's been healthy, Luke hasn't been a big part of the rotation by any stretch of the imagination. So it doesn't feel like a big loss even if he doesn't go for Syracuse. Let's get into our keys to the game, brought to you by none other than Drivers Village. Shop at dvtrucks.com. This segment powered by Drivers Village. Our keys to the game. Samantha, I'll let you go first. Let's tee us off here for our keys to the game segment.
All right. Well, I think that one of the first things is that the shooting has been better, and that has to continue today. I think that to start the year, a lot of people would tell you that Syracuse wasn't necessarily a great shooting team. And you've seen the difference that makes when Syracuse is shooting better. It spaces the floor out. It brings the defense away from the basket. If it's just driving, then the defense is going to pack it in. It's going to shrink the floor. But if not, you're hitting some perimeter jump shots. I think that this is a Syracuse team that is going to have a much better game, and you are going to see that in the number of points that they're able to put up.
I like that. I think for my biggest key to the game today, I'm going to go with limiting the turnovers. I think if you're Syracuse, that's been something that's plaguing you. Especially with the point guard position, Nathan George left a little bit to be desired there. I want to see him really take care of the basketball today, value the possessions. Now, I understand when you want to speed the game up, get up and run, sometimes you're playing so fast like your hair's on fire. It's a little bit easier to turn the basketball over, but especially if they get into an offensive set, I want to see him take care of the basketball and limit those turnovers. You got another one for us?
The other one that I would say is I want to see this be a game where they are getting over their average assists per game, which right now sits at around 13.6. I think that if Syracuse can try and get a little bit higher than that, maybe 15, 16, I think that would be a great thing collectively for this team. We have seen the difference that it's made when Nate George is the facilitator, when Nate George is assisting the ball. Not only because you're seeing what Nate George brings to the table, but I also think that it takes a little bit of pressure off of, let's say, a guy like J.J. Starling, who I think we've both admitted that at times was a little bit outside of his role, especially last year, doing a little bit too much. I think J.J. Starling has been a much better player because Nate George and Donnie Freeman are also in that game.
Yeah, I think my last key to the game is going to be let Boston College shoot the threes. Like, almost force them to shoot the threes. I would not be shocked because of how poor Boston College has been. They talked about it on Orange Nation throughout the week, how Syracuse has played some 2-3 zone. And it's really worked nicely for them when they've picked the moments for it, when they've picked the personnel for it, and when they've picked who the opposition is. I like that. Obviously, Red has strayed away, and it's not all zone or nothing the way it used to be, but there are moments where it works really, really nicely. I think today's a day where the zone could be really effective. The zone forces you to take and make threes. Boston College loves to take threes and does not make a lot of threes, like we talked about. They're 7th in the ACC in three-point attempts. They are 18th. That is dead last in three-point field goal percentage, right? So that matches up nicely if you're Syracuse. You want to play a little bit of 2-3 zone, especially with your length at the top of the zone with your guard play. Force them to take those threes. I don't think Boston College has the dudes that can shoot. So I really like that for Syracuse. I think maybe a little bit of zone today, forcing them to take and make threes on the defensive side could be very advantageous for Red Autry's crew today.
I think that is a fantastic key because, listen, Syracuse men's basketball, I think this year their man is a little bit better, right? They have the team to do it. They are athletic, they're versatile, they move really well. I think in some way that's kind of their calling card. Yeah. But why not mix in zone if you can? Why not shake things up? And especially against a team like Boston College, I think part of the reason that they end up shooting the three ball so much is because, frankly, that's just what they're used to. I think when they're in crunch time, when they're nervous, when they're falling behind, when they're trailing, this is what they fall back on. They fall back on their training. And I think if you can get Boston College to that point where they're, again, shooting the three ball too much, especially if it's an off day, this game shouldn't be a problem. Now, if they are shooting threes really well, maybe you adjust a little bit. But I think that Autry is probably a better in-game manager than on the Boston College side. So I think that's something that could work out well for them, too.
I'm with you. Samantha, one more thing I want to talk about here before we take the break. Boston College, we mentioned it. They're 0-4 in ACC play, right? They're on quite the 4-game skid right now. They have not beaten a power conference opponent to this point in the year. It has not been a strong year for BC. In fact, they've only played 5 power conference opponents this year. The one challenge in the non-con is they played LSU. That's a game they're forced to play in the ACC-SEC challenge. So by no stretch of the imagination did the Eagles challenge themselves scheduling in the non-conference. 0-4 in ACC play, but I'll say this about them. They have played some of the better teams in the league to this point. Losses at Georgia Tech, which is fine. That's towards the bottom. But then at Louisville, you're talking about a top 25 team. At Clemson, top 25 team, and then a home game to NC State, who's a quad 1 team, very, very good team, one of the better teams in the league, and they've played back-to-back AP top 25 opponents in Louisville and Clemson. So I understand they're 0-4, but they have played some of the league's best, particularly with 3 of the 4 games thus far.
I think that it's smart for you to point that out because you look at the record here and you don't feel overwhelmingly impressed, right? But I think that it is worth noting that they do tend to play up to their competition. And 5 of their first 6 losses, they were tied or winning with 1 minute remaining. So back to a point that I made earlier in the show, this is a team that has the tendency to be able to stay in games. I do not anticipate that this is a team that is going to give up. I just think that the earlier that you can get on them and the earlier that you can put a team like this in a hole, the better. Because again, you're on a 4-game losing streak. Your confidence is down a little bit, right? And I think that the belief sort of fades away in a situation like this a little bit quicker than if you're on a winning streak.
Yeah, arguably their best showing so far this year was against LSU, who's a decent team in the SEC. Lost it in overtime, so it took the Tigers to overtime in Conte Forum in the ACC-SEC Challenge, and then played Louisville not Louisville, NC State tightly as well. They lost by 8, right? Single digits defeat, and to your point, it was a lot closer. Free throws kind of allowed NC State to pull away and stretch the lead there in an 8-point victory over Boston College. With that, we'll step aside. When we come back, we'll go through our starting lineups. We'll bring the meat, brought to you by Hoffman Sausage Company. We'll give our final predictions and get you teed up for Boston College and Syracuse from Conte Forum up in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts. She's Sam Croston. I'm Giovanni Heater. Back after this on CuseSportsTalk.com at ESPN Syracuse.
Did you miss Drive Time with...
Sweet. Supercat says we did our homework. Appreciate you, Supercat. We did do our homework.
Because what do? Fall back on our training.
Yeah, we got
You got to train up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we can't come in blind here. I will tell you, the homework is so much easier to do. I don't want to say easier, but like in ACC play. Or at least in the non-con when they're playing good teams. Like doing homework on Mercyhurst or Northeastern or like even Hofstra, it's tough. One, there's not as much to find. Their game notes are not nearly in depth. And
the game notes is where it's at.
Right. And 2, it's just like, I mean, who cares? Like, okay, they're picked to finish 3rd in their like, I mean, it's just like very surface level. There's also not as much substance to any of the numbers. Like early in the non-conference, if they've played 4 games, like there's not a lot of substance to those numbers because it's not a large sample size, right? So if you're ranked 300 something in the country in 3-point shooting in January, that means a lot more than it does the second week of the season, you know?
Yep. So. Not about that.
Who's fired up for the Bills game? I am so excited. I'm so excited. Thank you for the nugget there, Jordan.
Let Chef Jeff take care of all your catering needs. Whether you're craving tender ribs,
According to Jordan, Donald Hand is shooting 22% from 3 this season. He says, I'm just going to say it, Jesus, that's bad.
Yeah.
And then Cayenne is shooting 23%, though. So
okay.
It's not, that's 1% better.
Yeah, nice little comparison there.
But hey, we're just trying to get 1% better every day.
Mm-hmm.
Level 5.
Syracuse Bicycle is the locally owned, largest bicycle shop with passionate staff ready to help you have fun on your new bicycle and e-bike. Test ride top brands today at Syracuse Bicycle. Not everyone can ride.
We got a full slate today. Last week, Sam, we went 4-0, meaning it's a very rare 4-0 day, or 4-0 weekend, I should say. Syracuse won, Virginia Tech won, Texas A&M won, and the Buffalo Bills won. We could really use a 4-0 day today. Syracuse plays, obviously, BC. Virginia Tech's in action right now. Let me check the score. I was listening to it on the radio on the way. Texas A&M plays Texas. Huge rivalry game in Austin. And then, obviously, the Bills in the divisional round.
Go Bills.
Let's see what the score of the Hokies game is.
Where did you get that? Like
This?
The jacket.
The jacket?
I
Marshalls.
actually want it.
Marshalls. Dude, they actually have like a bunch too.
You got that recently?
I got this last year. I haven't seen this one, but I actually like the ones this year better. Like the ones they have this year are better, but I'm like not going to buy another one because I already have one.
Did you see it?
Like probably a couple weeks ago. They definitely still have them. Yeah, Marshalls. And it was
I'm
like
surprised
it was
how
like,
fast things.
like
I don't know.
for it being a jacket.
Yeah.
It was only like $30 or something.
Oh, really?
Like it was like stupid cheap.
Marshalls is
Marshalls
the
is so
best.
clutch. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
obsessed with that
I
place.
love Marshalls. Oh, the Hokies are up 77-59 on Notre Dame. Things you love to see. It's shaping up to be a wonderful day. Virginia Tech has lost. I'll have to show you the video. Each of the last 3 games by buzzer beaters. One of them was like 3 seconds left. One of them was like 2 seconds left. All 3-pointers. All 3-pointers.
Wow.
And then they lost to SMU by a half-court shot at the buzzer.
Oh, you know
the
what?
other night.
Yeah,
which
I saw
was
that.
brutal.
I saw that.
So, like, even ESPN was like brutal to be a Syracuse fan or a Virginia Tech fan. Syracuse basketball pregame coverage rolls on. Final segment here. We're just about 10 minutes away from tip-off in Conte Forum up in Chestnut Hill between Syracuse and Boston College. Giovanni Heater alongside Samantha Croston with you on ESPN Syracuse and QSportsTalk.com. Final segment getting you ready for the Orange and the Eagles, Samantha. And it's a good spot to start with Bringing the Meat, brought to you by Hoffman Sausage Company. Hoffman Sausage Company has called Syracuse home since 1879. They have more than just hot dogs like German Franks and Snappies. They have amazing sausages to take us through the cold months. Jalapeno cheddar, Italian, beer bratwurst, and more. We're going to need that. We're going to need that game time snack, no question. After ad reads like that, what do you got? Who do you expect to bring the meat today for Syracuse? Who do you expect to have a big performance for the Orange?
I am looking at Nate George. I think that is someone who is going to have a great game today. Of course, as many of you may know, last year he led the ACC in assists, and we're starting to see him heat up as far as that's concerned. Last time out, he had a career-high 13 assists. That is the first time a player at SU has had back-to-back double-digit assist games since the 2016-17 season. That is quite an accomplishment. Why I think that's important is because if you think about Nate George before his Syracuse time, he didn't have as many weapons. I feel like now, being on this Syracuse team, he's a kid in a candy store. I mean, he has all of these different options. He has a guy like William Kyle who he can lob the ball up to at any time. He's able to pass it off to JJ. There are a lot of different weapons, a lot of different shooters, and I think that if Nate George is having a good game facilitating, everyone else will have a good game too.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you there. I like the pick. I'm going to say ride the hot hand. I'm going to go Donnie Freeman. I mean, he's been unbelievable. How could you not, right? It doesn't feel like there's a particular position-by-position matchup quite like last game against Florida State that I thought was as big of importance, or against like Georgia Tech when their big man was out. I thought William Kyle would dominate, right? So today I'm going to go Donnie Freeman and just keep it simple. He's showing that he is one of the best players in the league, right? Serious NBA talent, one of the best players Syracuse basketball has had in quite a bit of time here. He's averaging in ACC play well over 20 points per game. He's been dominant offensively, defensively. He can score at 3 levels, right beyond the arc, mid-range, get to the rim. He's an awesome talent. So I'm going to say Donnie Freeman. When Donnie's playing like that, this is going to be a hard out. This is going to be a hard team to beat in Syracuse, and he's been playing terrific basketball in ACC play so far, even in that second half against the Clemson Tigers on New Year's Eve. So I think Donnie keeps it rolling. I think he brings the meat today for Syracuse, brought to you by Hoffman Sausage Company. Let's go with our Upstate Imports starting lineups here, Sam, and I'll let you get the read for Syracuse. I'll start with Boston College here. Fred Payne will start at the top for the Eagles. Luka Taus will play the 2. Donald Hand Jr., he's the team's leading scorer with 14.4 points per game. He will play the 3. Remember, the large guard, right, at 6'5", he'll play the 3. Jaden Hastings will play the 4 for BC, and then Bowden Kapke, averaging 9 points per game, third on the team in scoring, will play the 5. One more time through, it goes Payne, Taus, Hand Jr., Hastings, and Kapke. How about for Syracuse, Sam?
On the Syracuse side, J.J. Starling. We got Nate Kings, Nate George, Double Nate, Donnie Freeman, and William Kyle. The one guy who I'm really kind of interested to see how he plays today is Nate Kings. You know how earlier I was saying that it sort of feels like everybody knows their role, everybody kind of has their identity set?
Yeah.
He's someone who I sort of feel like is still trying to figure it out. But
Sure.
This week, on the Orange Zone podcast, Eric Devendorf, it was his first time coming on. He said that he thinks that Nate Kings is a 3-and-D guy. And I sort of like that phrasing.
Yeah.
I think that that's a fair way to put it. But I think that maybe there's a little bit more from Nate Kings that we haven't seen yet that potentially he could bring to this team. So I'm curious to see whether or not he steps up to the challenge.
I like it. I like the take. All right, it's time for our final score predictions here. Who do you got? Who do you got up in Chestnut Hill between Syracuse and Boston College?
I'm going to go Syracuse on this one.
I
think
it.
that that's fair. I think that that's the obvious choice. I will go Syracuse wins this game on the road 80-70.
Ooh, got him hitting 80 again. I like it.
I want to go high scoring. I think that this is the kind of game where that certainly could happen. Realistically, I think they probably could win by more than 10 points, but 10 points just feels right to me on the road, seeing as they have let a couple leads slip. 10 points feels like the right number to me. I'll go 80-70.
All right, I'm a little bit hesitant to say they'll hit the 80 mark again because Boston College's strengths have come on the defensive side, but I still don't know how strong their strengths are, if that makes sense, right? I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with Syracuse scoring. I'm going to say Syracuse struggles to get to 80, but they get close. I'm going to say they win this one 78. They don't get to 80, but they score 78, and I'll say 78-66.
Okay.
A 12-point win for the Cuse on the road against Boston College. So we each got the Orange winning by double digits. We hope that you enjoy the ball game. Enjoy your whole Saturday. If you're a Bills game, enjoy that. Enjoy the NFL playoffs. Enjoy Cuse and BC. Sam, your final thoughts before we let everyone go.
Again, you can call it a must-win game. You can call it a not must-win game. You can call it any kind of game you want. But Syracuse has to come out of this game with a victory if they want to continue down the path of being an NCAA tournament team. And I think we all know and we all agree, whether you're sitting in these seats or you're watching this show, that for more reasons than one, from a fan standpoint, from an Adrian Autry standpoint, from a team standpoint, Syracuse has to be in the NCAA tournament this year to stay relevant.
I love it. I love it. We'll talk to you post-game right here on CuseSportsTalk.com and ESPN Syracuse. It'll be Sam and myself, so we'll take your calls. We'll chat about, hopefully, a Syracuse win immediately following the action in Chestnut Hill. But for now, saying so long for Samantha Croston, for Jordan Capozzi producing the show behind the scenes. We appreciate you, my man. I'm Giovanni Heater saying so long. Enjoy the game, and we'll talk to you after.
Did you miss